Greetings, my name is Jason Turner, the Executive Director of the Secretary's Innovation Group, which is an association of state agency heads of both human services and workforce departments reporting to their respective governors. Formerly, I served as New York City's Commissioner of Health, Welfare, and Workforce between 1998 and 2002. In this 15-minute program, you will learn three important national policy problems and their solutions. First, fully 10% of all American men between age 25 and 54 are not working and not looking for work. Second, 2/3 of these non-working men are living off of federal disability, which has become the welfare system for non-working men. Third, Kentucky is conducting a DOL demo, which is the answer. Kentucky's state vocational system catches these men with alleged health conditions, potentially precluding them from work, and places them into employment before they get themselves on disability. A version of this program is described in the Secretary's Innovation Group's website at the Disability tab. Our first expert is Nicholas Eberstadt, a well-known demographer at AEI and the publisher of Men Without Work, which you can obtain by request. Next is Rich Burkhauser, formerly Council of Economic Advisors in the first Trump administration and co-author of The Declining Work and Welfare of People with Disabilities. Third is Dr. David Stapleton, formerly from Mathematica and the co-chief evaluator of the entire federal disability system as appointed by the Social Security Administration. Mr. Eberstadt?
Thank you, Jason. I'm going to present some information for everybody on the collapse of work for men in their prime of life, in the prime of working life, the 25 to 54 group, because I don't think that's terribly well understood. I'm going to show you 4 slides that'll help maybe appreciate it a little bit better. This first slide shows the labor force participation rate for all men in the working force and all women in the working force. And you can see that since 1948, when we started collecting and releasing our modern labor force and employment statistics, the rate for men has almost steadily declined, while the rate for women has increased as women have come into the labor force. The rate for men hasn't declined because women are taking men's jobs. They supplement each other. There's been a certain amount of decline due to the aging of population, but that's not the real story here. I can show you what the real story is in the next slide. This is the not in labor force proportion. We're prime age men, 25 to 54 years of age, from 1965 up to the present. You can see it's risen almost steadily. It's not quite year by year, but it's a relentless increase that doesn't seem to have very much to do with business cycles. It doesn't seem to have to do very much with big international trade events like China's entering into the WTO. It doesn't have to do with technological innovations like this wonderful friend of ours here, cell phone. This relentless increase in not in labor force men has left us in a situation now where there are roughly 7 million prime age men who are neither working nor looking for work. And you won't see this in our job statistics because our job statistics were designed to fight the last war, employment war. They were designed to measure employment and unemployment during the Great Depression. The first rollout of our current system was in the 1940 census. Back then, it would have been inconceivable to think that a man who didn't have a job wouldn't be looking for one. But in the most recent monthly jobs report that just came out, for every unemployed man who's in the prime of the working age, 25 to 54, there are over 3 who are neither working nor looking for work. So if you are just looking at the unemployment rate, you are missing over 3/4 of the jobless, of the workless problem for prime age men. And by the way, if you just look at the employment to population ratio for prime age men, we might call the work rate or the employment rate, today that's almost as low as it was in 1940 when this was first measured during the tail end of the Great Depression, when the national unemployment rate was 14%. So I'm not being hyperbolic when I say we've got basically a depression scale problem with work for men in the United States today. So what are the not in labor force men? What are the dropout men doing? What do they do from the time they wake up until they go to sleep? We've got some idea of what they're doing from self-reported information in the Department of Labor's time use survey. I'd say there are a couple of things that really are striking in this. One is how little time men who are out of the workforce devote to care of other people in their homes, to housework, and to civil society activities like volunteering. The other thing which is really striking is how much time men in this part of society are spending in front of screens. We don't know what screens, we don't know what they're watching, but screen use for these dropout men is almost equivalent to a full-time job. There's one final dispiriting aspect to their self-reporting that I think I should mention here as well. Almost half of the neither employed nor in education and training men, almost half of these dropout men report that they're taking pain medication on a daily basis. So we have an enormous problem in America here that isn't being adequately recognized, I'm afraid.
Mr. Burkhauser?
As can be seen in Figure 1, EI and SSI disability rolls rose continuously from 3.2 million in 1984 to 10.3 million in 2014. This was not caused by a dramatic decline in the health of working-age adult Americans. Rather, it was primarily caused by congressional legislation in 1984 that substantially weakened the eligibility criteria for those working adults with an impairment to be judged totally and permanently disabled and allowed to enter the DI and SSI disability rolls. It is this growth in adult beneficiaries that to a large degree is responsible for the increase in the share of working-age persons not in the labor force. Slide 2 provides 4 reasons for more reforms. Number 1, the majority of initial disability determinations no longer meet the medical listings alone. More than half no longer do so. 2, those who do meet the medical listings include either mental illness or musculoskeletal conditions. 63% did so in 2023. Between 1992 and 2008, on average, 2 of 3 applicants denied benefits who appealed at the administrative law judge level were successful. Reforms in the training and monitoring of these judges has reduced this rate to around 50% since 2012. Allowing SSA to be represented by counsel and to bring expert witnesses would further this decline. Number 4, SSA has updated their list of vocational characteristics by occupation with new occupational surveys at a cost of over $300 million. However, this updated list is still not being used by SSA in its adjudication of disability claims. It should be.
Dr. Stapleton?
Thank you, Jason. Every year, hundreds of thousands of workers with difficult medical problems leave the workforce and seek support from SSDI, SSI, Medicare, and Medicaid. Research has demonstrated that many could return to work with help, yet over decades, extensive efforts to help them return to work after they enter SSDI or SSI have not been fruitful. I spent much of my career evaluating these efforts. Instead, our expensive support system continues to fail them, especially those with relatively low skills or education. Too many needlessly stop working, become dependent on disability benefits, and fall into poverty. In 2016, the bipartisan SSDI Solutions Initiative agreed with me and many other experts that we need to change directions to provide return to work support to such workers before they become dependent on disability benefits. Inspired by the SSDI Solutions Initiative, in 2018, the Department of Labor and SSA started the Retain Grant program for states. Ultimately, 5 states adapted a recommended design to their own circumstances and conducted full tests: Kansas, Kentucky, Minnesota, Ohio, and Vermont. Retain ended last year, and full evaluation findings are expected in a few months. Kentucky Retain stands out from the others because the state's Vocational Rehabilitation Agency, or VR agency, led design and implementation. Other state efforts were led by private sector organizations. Every state has a VR agency, however. Current funding, though, and program priorities keep those agencies from delivering early intervention services such as those offered by Retain. We do have some information about the outcomes in Kentucky. Most notably, over 90% of the Retain enrollees who completed services actually went back to work. Kentucky wants to continue Retain and to integrate Retain into SSA's disability determination process, as illustrated in this diagram. The goal is to better serve workers with low skills and limited education, those most likely to enter SSDI or SSI. The original Retain program serves volunteers who were referred by doctors and others in Kentucky's medical system, as shown in the upper left of this diagram. Under the proposed enhancements, the state's Disability Determination Services, or DDS, which conducts disability determinations for SSA, as shown in the lower left corner, would screen all applicants for SSDI and SSI to select those most likely to return to work with the benefit of retained services. Thus, for selected applicants, vocational services would become part of the application process, similar to how some applicants are directed to obtain consultative medical examinations under the current process. Kentucky has also proposed enhancements to retained services for these enrollees to increase the chance that they successfully return to work. Those applicants who successfully return to work with help from VR will no longer need disability benefits. Those who do not return to work, despite verified help from VR, will continue the disability determination process. But SSA may be able to expedite their awards using information from the return to work efforts with VR. This information will fill a gap that my colleagues and I have identified in past research on SSA's vocational factors. Those factors are badly outdated and out of touch with today's economy and medical and vocational services that today can support return to work. SSA would terminate the disability determination process for those applicants who fail to obtain the vocational services as directed. If well designed, the integration of vocational services into the disability determination process will clearly improve economic and social outcomes for those who successfully return to work as a result. I predict that the bulk of those who do not return to work will be awarded or denied disability benefits just as under the current process. There will also be fewer needless exits from the labor force. In addition, public expenditures for the applicants referred to vocational services will fall. There will be large savings from reductions in SSDI, SSI, Medicare, and Medicaid expenditures, hundreds of thousands in savings for every worker who successfully returns to work before they reach retirement age. Savings will be partly offset by new investments in short-term vocational rehabilitation services. One option is to repurpose Ticket to Work funds, in part because providing vocational services during the application process, as under the proposal, will reduce the need for vocational services by beneficiaries in the future. The magnitude of these effects will depend on the design of the screen, the enhancements to VR services, and how the change to the disability determination process is administered. To conclude, I recommend that Congress direct the Social Security Administration and the Department of Labor to continue to cooperate on this issue, and specifically to provide Kentucky and other states the opportunity to integrate vocational services into the disability determination process along the lines proposed by Kentucky. Thank you.
There is a parallel between TANF, the largest cash welfare system mainly for women, and disability, SSI, SSDI, and VA, the largest cash welfare system mainly for men. Especially in disability, the individual mindset turns from opportunity and potential through work to the preservation of benefits. Under these circumstances, living on low income is not difficult in comparison with 8 hours of physical or service labor. We see this in the failure of the Ticket to Work program. In testimony before Congress, many recipients said they would be willing to test the suitability of work if they could be guaranteed benefits during a transition period. This turned out to be false in practice. The overwhelming number of beneficiaries are focused on the preservation of benefits at the expense of opportunity. Only 5% of disability beneficiaries emerge from this dependency in their lifetimes. Under this mindset, when Mayor Giuliani reduced the number of TANF-dependent New Yorkers from 1.1 million when he took office in 1995 to 450,000 8 years later, how did he do it? Some would have predicted that removing 8% of New York's entire population off cash benefits would have caused chaos. Why didn't it? The answer is that we moved applicants for benefits to work before they became dependent recipients. During the period I was commissioner, we required all applicants to actively look for and accept work opportunities while their application was pending. Most were successful and started a new job because the procedure was integrated into the application process and a condition of receiving benefits. We are proposing that the same system be applied for disability, the cash welfare system mainly for men. As we described, a version of the Kentucky system would be implemented under our plan. When an individual applies for disability through the Disability Determination Agency, they would simultaneously be enrolled in the vocational rehab system. As in Kentucky, many would find work with the assistance of Voc Rehab. But here it is important to make a distinction. Kentucky's volunteer participants want to stay employed. On the other hand, applicants who have already decided to apply for disability are mostly not looking for work, but for lifetime benefits of about $1,500 per month. Therefore, we would not expect exactly comparable results as with Kentucky. But under our integrated plan, society will have gained a new ally in our quest for the best possible personal health and work outcomes for the 10% of working-age men who are not now employed or looking for work. The Secretary's Innovation Group thanks you for your attention.